Hi everybody, it's Miss Christina. I'm back to read you another Bible time story today. And it has been really rainy here today. Like the thunder has been shaking our entire house and our dog is a little scared of the thunder. And so since it's raining so hard, I thought that I would read a story that has a lot to do with rain and flooding. So this is a story called Noah's Floating Animal Park by Janine Suter and illustrated by Richard Gunther. I read a second book like this a couple weeks back about Adam and Eve, if you want to go back and check this one out. These are kind of tongue twisters, so we'll see how I can do with it, but I hope you enjoy it. Let's get started. And since it's raining, my children are all playing inside, so you might hear some in the background, but hopefully it won't be too distracting. The Bible tells of Noah, a kind and righteous man, who had a wife and 3 good sons named Japheth, Shem, and Ham. Noah and his wife and sons, and all their wives too, built an ark that was the world's first ever floating zoo. This story is not make-believe. It actually occurred. The whole event got written down, recorded word for word. Although the world had started well, it was now in trouble. God knew that something needed to be done right on the double. Sin was spoiling everything. It was really chilling. Stealing, fighting everywhere, and lots of killing. To make things worse, some sons of God had hatched a wicked plot. They took some wives and had some sons who weren't a normal lot. The Nephilim, as they were called, were very nasty guys. They were super wicked bullies who believed the devil's lies. The Bible says that every thought in every mind was always evil all the time and never kind. God was very sad and said, "This sin is out of hand. I need to send a flood to wipe these people from the land." So then God said to Noah, "There will be a worldwide flood, but I will save your family and some creatures from the mud. Build an ark from gopher wood. Start lopping trees today. You must build this massive ship exactly as I say. Make it 300 cubits long and 50 cubits wide. And don't forget to cover it with pitch on every side. Build it 30 cubits high. That's more than big enough for you and all the animals and lots of other stuff." Inside the ocean liner, make 3 decks to house my creatures. A window all along the top will be one of its features. This type of boat would keep rain out, so it would never sink. But maybe some ran down through pipes for animals to drink. So Noah and his family did exactly what God said. But people joked and said, "You guys are crazy in the head." All the neighbors teased them. They came to point and laugh. They didn't think that God would ever give the earth a bath. Noah warned them, "If you want to live through this event, you'll need to get into my boat. You can't stay in your tent. The ark will be the only way to stay dry on the day that God will send the water to wash this world away." But nobody would listen, so Noah and his brood got busy growing extra crops to stock up lots of food. To fill the troughs at feeding time each day upon the ark, there'd be no hungry tummies on this floating animal park. When the ark was finished, God sent animals by their kind. They all got sent by God, so not one kind got left behind. Most arrived in pairs, but some came 7 at a time. I'm sure that as they climbed aboard, they formed a formal line. Now you might be wondering how Noah found a way to fit in every sort of creature found on earth today. To answer that, it really helps to bring up an example. that demonstrates how the space inside the ark was ample. For Noah didn't need to take each sort of dog there is, like long-haired dogs and short-haired dogs and dogs whose hair is frizz. He only needed 2 dogs, and from those 2 dogs on the ark have come all the dogs we see today that dig and howl and bark. And what about the dinosaurs? How did they fit them in? Did they put them all on diets to make them super thin? Well, dinosaurs were babies once, and God most likely chose young dinosaurs that were about as high as Noah's nose. Now, it's not exactly clear what the ark was like inside, but we know that it had lots of rooms and heaps of space to hide all the food and goodies that they needed, and yet more. Once the flood began, they couldn't pop down to the store. We know the ark had pens to house beasts of every kind, and maybe slotted floors to catch what comes out from behind. I'm guessing they invented an automatic feeding thing that dropped the food down into pens when Noah pulled a string. Once on board, the passengers listened to the sound of water falling from the sky and bursting from the ground. God himself had shut the door and made it waterproof. No water came in from the door and none in from the roof. As the water filled the earth, the ark began to float. Everybody outside wished they'd been on board the boat. The water rose so high it covered every bit of land, and underneath the water was swirling mud and sand. Heaps of stuff got buried as that mud slid all around. That's why we can dig them up as fossils from the ground. And way down in the water, all the fish were keeping busy, swimming in the currents, which were making them quite dizzy. Everything was moving. From the ground came water fountains. It rained for 40 days and nights and covered all the mountains. When the water got so high, it couldn't get much worse. God stopped the rain and pulled the plug and threw it in reverse. Pushing up the mountains helped the water drain away. It carved the rocks and shaped the ground that we can see today. Then one day inside the ark, when Shem was with the parrots, and Ham was feeding horses, and Japheth peeling carrots, Shem's wife called out, "Hey, this ark is getting really jerky," and with a bump it landed on a mountain top near Turkey. They all knew they couldn't leave until God dried the land. So with that in mind, Noah took a raven in his hand. He let it out the window, but that bird just flew around. It was happy to keep flying till it found a piece of ground. Whoops, pages are sticky. Then Noah took a pretty dove and did another test to find out if the little bird would find a spot to rest. At first it just came back again, but to his great relief, the next time Noah sent it out, it came back with a leaf. After many days afloat, when Noah was 601, God explained to Noah that the day had finally come for his family and the animals to leave the wooden ark and on a journey out into the new world to embark. So everyone was glad to help the animals get out. They were blinking in the sunlight as they slowly walked about. And Noah was so thankful that his feet were on dry ground. He made a sacrifice to God for landing safe and sound. Then suddenly they all looked up and saw an awesome sight. A rainbow stretched across the sky, colorful and bright. God said, "There is a message in every rainbow that you see, that was the only worldwide flood that there will ever be. Later on, I'm sure they planned a great big family feast to celebrate their landing in what we would call the Middle East. Where will we live? All the animals then began to wonder. The kangaroos didn't stick around, but headed for down under. And every single person who lives on earth today came from Noah's family, who left the ark that day. God's promise not to flood the world, he will never break. But the Bible makes it clear that we have something to escape. Because of sin, this broken world will one day pass away. It will be pretty scary for those people on that day. We don't have an ark to build. God has a different plan. This time, we will be saved through the life of just one man. Only Jesus has the power to rescue us from sin. He'll take you up to heaven if you give your life to him. But like Noah, you need to be brave until that day. Jesus comes to take you to his home far away. Don't listen to the people who say that it isn't true. It was written in the Bible, so it's straight from God to you. Trust in Jesus all your life and make him your best friend. For all those who believe in him, there's life that doesn't end. The end. I hope you enjoyed this book. I thought it was super cute. I like the illustrations and how it uses that rhyming kind of tongue twister language, and it was a funny way of telling a very important story. And I think it's important for kids and adults to know that the things that happened in Genesis that we read about in the Bible, they're not just stories. They are history. They really happened. There really was a man named Noah and his family who built an ark, and animals were on the ark, and God did really flood the entire earth. And he really did punish people for sin. And so I think it's important that we take time to know that those things really did happen. You know, this book really reminds me of how big and important sin is, and how God takes it seriously. You know, we all do things wrong and we say we're sorry, but it's a really big deal. Sin is a big deal, and God does not overlook sin. And so in the story of Noah, Noah and the ark was the salvation. The ark saved Noah and his family and the animals from death, from the punishment of the flood. And today, Jesus is the salvation. Jesus offers us salvation from our sin. He is like the Noah in the story. And so God still takes sin seriously. Just because he gave us a rainbow and said that he would never flood the entire earth again doesn't mean that God will not hold us accountable for our sin. Let me see if I'm trying to find that picture of the rainbow right here. This doesn't mean that God isn't going to punish sin. Sin has to be accounted for. And so it's great to know as Christians that Jesus takes that punishment for us for our sins, and that he gives us righteousness, and he gives us the ability to have a relationship with God. And so it's just a good reminder that sin is serious, and that God is powerful. And so I hope you enjoyed this book. There's another one that I don't have. It's right here, and it's called The Not So Super Skyscraper, and it's about the Tower of Babel. And I read this one the day the world went wacky a couple of weeks ago. You can look that one up. But these are just interesting little books. They're promoted by Ken Ham in Answers in Genesis. And again, in one of my previous videos when we talked about dinosaurs, Answers in Genesis is a great place to go to learn about creation and how God can be seen throughout creation and in science, and that it is true and real, no matter what some people might like to say. So I hope you liked this book, and I will be back again next week to read you another story, and I hope you have a great week. Bye!